Right, I think we're all good to go. So let's get started and see where we all stand on the future we are all here to shape. Now, first question, what do you believe is the most important factor in building smart cities of the future? Is it A, advanced technology integration, B, sustainable infrastructure, C, community engagement, or D, government support and regulation? Right, I see community engagement is leading at the moment. I'll give us a moment to continue adding our answers. Right. Right, community engagement, perfect. And now moving on to the next question. Which area of innovation will have the biggest impact on urban development in the next decade? Is it A, artificial intelligence and automation, B, renewable energy, C, smart mobility and transport, or D, digital real estate platforms? Right, I see a lot of us are going for option A, perfect. Now we'll move on to the next question. What is the main challenge facing future-ready urban development in the region? Is it A, balancing sustainability with profitability, B, adapting to rapid technological change, C, attracting long-term investment, or D, aligning private-public partnerships? Right, I see a lot of us are going for balancing sustainability with profitability. Now, last question, ladies and gentlemen. In your opinion, which city in the MENA region is currently leading in smart urban transformation? Is it A, Abu Dhabi, B, Dubai, C, Riyadh, or D, Cairo? A lot of us agree with Dubai. Let's give other people a chance. Perfect, Dubai it is. Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts. It's always inspiring to see the collective voice in the room. And now let's keep the momentum going as we move into our next session for this afternoon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in our next session, we explore how future-ready urban infrastructure is shaping livable cities for decades ahead. To take us through this discussion, please welcome to the stage engineer Aisha Alardhi, engineering expert in federal infrastructure asset management sector at the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. Craig Thackray, Vice President of Environment for MEA at AECOM. Harj Dhaliwal, co-founder and Chief Business and Capital Programs Officer at Nevomo. And of course, your moderator, Dr. Benjamin Motte-Baumvol, Senior Researcher at Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi.
So, good afternoon and welcome to our panel on future-ready cities, building resilience and smart mobilities. So, as we face the twin pressure of climate change and rapid urbanization, our cities must become more agile, sustainable, and connected. So, with our esteemed panel, we'll explore how adaptive planning, integrated transport networks, and environmental foresight are shaping livable and resilient cities for decades to come. So first, we're going to go with engineer Aisha. So how is the UAE using technologies like AI, IoT, or digital twins to enhance the climate readiness of national infrastructure assets?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be part of this dialogue at Forbes. I'll be sharing how UAE is advancing resilient
resilient and adaptive infrastructure in the face of climate change through digitalization, innovation, and collaborative governance. So let's start with resilient and adaptive infrastructure. At Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, we're redesigning and managing federal roads,
federal dams, and federal buildings to withstand extreme weather like flood and heavy rainfall. We operate a centralized control center connected with more than 10 of federal and local entities using IoT sensors and AI to collect and analyze infrastructure data. This enables predictive maintenance and enhances infrastructure safety. As a result, the UAE ranks fourth globally in infrastructure quality and first in road satisfaction, which reflect our commitment to resilience. The second point is about smart technologies to climate readiness. We are leveraging AI, digital twins, and modeling tools to simulate scenarios and support emergency decision-making. Our dam flood alert system, the first in the Middle East, can predict flood up to 2 hours ahead. Actually, it played a key role during the last storm, Al-Hadir, and helped prevent casualties on federal dams, which is something that we are really proud with. We are also leading the UAE's first national study on sea level rise with New York, Abu Dhabi. It models risks to coastal infrastructure through 2071 and finds solutions that boost resilience by over 40%.
That's amazing. So can you share also how the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure is working with other national entities to develop and integrated proactive approach to climate risk management?
Doctor, none of what I mentioned before possible without strong collaboration. We coordinate closely with related ministries, local governments, and also the emergency entities to ensure a unified, proactive climate response framework. Digitizing infrastructure is now a matter for public safety and national readiness.
Thank you. And now, Craig, in your experience, what are the most effective strategies for incorporating environmental sustainability into design and operation of future-ready cities?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, there's 4 key points that we use to do that. First and foremost is obviously advanced digital tools and technology. So again, we've got tools that track climate change, as already said. We do a lot of carbon modeling, so even before we start a concept design on a structure, we have a look at both the embodied carbon and the operational carbon, and that actually informs the concept design even before we go to detailed design. So that's really some of the tools that we use. Just AI is also coming into play, but just be cautious, because 2 things: AI is not accountable. If you lose your investments, or if the bridge falls down, or if the building collapses, they don't mind going to jail. So again, there's got to be accounting. And I think also previously today, they said transparency, but also ethics comes into play. So again, nowadays you've got professional engineers and environmentalists, so just be cautious. The second point really is community and dynamic community engagement. We've discussed that a lot over the last 2 days, but you've got to have not just inform people or ask their opinions, you've got to engage them so that they're participants. So again, look at, Gardenia Bay, they like Masdar is sustainable. So the residents there really have to be key part of it and take ownership and accountability as well. The third one is quite engineering specific, and we've got to do sustainable designs. So past 2080, if you haven't heard about it before, it's something that we as the Institution of Civil Engineers, the ISTRUCTI, also the Society of Engineers in Dubai, we're all rolling out. These give you guidelines for any building developer or anybody that's actually wanting to know how to sustainably design something. It's all in there. 70% of the ability to reduce carbon and greenhouse gases comes during the design phase. So again, it makes sense for the designers to use those mitigations and to do it. And the last one is nature-based solutions. We all love nature, being out in the green areas and the park spaces and stuff. Incorporating nature into any design or into any development, any building, we've heard it, is very key for achieving that sustainability. Yes, it's got to make social and economic sense, but if you can actually get that nature-based solution, make it green. We heard yesterday about all the parks that they're introducing. So again, why are they doing that? It actually just makes sense from each sustainability perspective.
Thank you. You just talked about nature. I have a question about it. So how can environmental consideration be balanced with the growing demands for transport infrastructure, for smart mobility, for example, here in the UAE with fast urbanization?
So again, the first thing is energy demand. All of the mobility, we're seeing a huge amount of energy. Sustainable green energy is something that the UAE has invested in quite a lot. We've got the biggest solar farms. We've recently, 5 years ago, started with nuclear. So again, it's green energy, which is renewable energy. We still have a reliance on the hydrocarbons because the energy demand has just gone way quicker than what you could actually get renewables done and online. So I think the key challenge is to reduce the amount of energy that we use. But currently we're talking data centers and so forth. Well, they're very energy hungry entities. So again, there's a look at possibly like with, and there was a big discussion when the president from the USA was over, again, these data centers, how to make them independent. Do we put nuclear inside them, like a nuclear submarine or an aircraft carrier? But we've got such a big energy demand. How do you keep up with everybody trying to use AI and so forth? It takes energy. And that releases greenhouse gases. So the next point is carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, and change. We all seen climate change is here. So again, we've got to design resilient infrastructure that can also offset the carbon and make sure that we've got carbon projects that sequate carbon and so forth, because that's very key to what we're doing. So coming back to the mobility side of it, it's interesting. We spoke about behaviors early today. Two behaviors, and I'm going to give you a different perspective to what was said this morning. Look at the RTA, what they've just done in terms of Salak. We have got massive congestion only at certain times, peak morning, peak afternoon. So they're trying to get people to do their traveling now at later times because there's a cash incentive and an advantage to do so. Have a look at Abu Dhabi, what they're doing in terms of trying to get people onto bicycles. Look at Yas, we go to the circuits on Mondays and Wednesday nights. You can cycle, you can run. The bicycles are for free. Look at Hadariat and so forth. So they're really looking at transportation without having to get in and generate trips. I think it was said this morning as well, everybody complains about the traffic. So the fundamental mobility challenge is to take more vehicles off the road, and another facet to that is your public transportation. So we've seen a massive impact. They said it yesterday. Also the Riyadh Metro, huge impact in terms of the traffic there. So again, all of these are real technological advances in terms of mobility and how we move people around. And also, if they are cycling, they're also being very fit and healthy, which is great.
Thank you for your insights. Harj, so how do you envision smart mobility solutions like Nevomo's technology, where you work, contributing to the resilience and efficiency of urban transportation system in future cities?
Okay, I'm going to start off by answering that question and sort of giving an antidote. Almost, if you consider mobility and the modes of mobility and break them out and down into sort of the past, the present, and the future, then it starts helping me sort of frame the answer to this question. If we look at the past, we've got trains, planes, automobiles have been running around for, well, trains 200 years nearly, planes 1904, cars in the late 18th century, but nothing new has really happened. But in the last decade, slightly over a decade now, new technologies have started to emerge, technologies that we could not have imagined 10, 12 years ago. So the ability to have supercomputers, ultra-high-speed processing, switching, power electronics, AI, overlaid, machine learning. All of these now have started to come together and be integrated in mobility. And I say past, present, and future because we have, you know, you can divide the world into those that have and those that don't have and those that are sort of in the middle. And what I mean by that is you've got legacy infrastructure here that's been in the US, in Europe, in India, and other parts of the world where I'm working. You have legacy infrastructure that needs to be addressed, upgraded. Building your way out of infrastructure is really a very, very difficult and costly process, as we all know. You only have to look at HS2 in the UK to understand that's the most costliest railway in the world, and it's still got probably another decade before they build it. So the ability to be able to overlay technology that I've just mentioned into existing legacy systems to increase their capacity, to improve their efficiency, to be able to get more for less is what Nevomo effectively is doing. So that's the sort of the past legacy sort of systems. And then there's new system, or the present situation, where we are still building railways with a lot of the new technology I've mentioned, but they are railways. You only have to look here. I mean, I've spent the best part of 6 years working on Etihad Rail Phase 1. So, you know, and the UAE is building a rail network, a passenger network. Connectivity is absolutely super crucial to the whole GC. But when we start looking at the future, and then we start looking at what the future technology is, and that's the Hyperloop technology, where again, with Virgin, where I was there, we were developing that technology, which is right at the cutting edge, and it was almost a confluence of space, aerospace, and high-speed rail technologies. And then you start looking at, right, okay, at what time do we adopt these technologies, and at what point do we adopt them? Because that's when we start making change happen. And when we start looking at our cities, and we start looking at what the technologies that are now available to us, and Hyperloop technology is fascinating, because that's the ultimate vision. Everything else I'm going to talk to you about what we're doing in Nevomo, is a stepping stone to where we want to be. But if you then start looking at technology, where time and distance is no longer a barrier, would we still plan the cities the way we plan them today? You wouldn't. I'll tell you, you know, our ports are congested. Would we, and they need expanding, but how do you expand a port already in a central, urban, congested area? It's very, very difficult to do that. But when time and distance is the barrier, the way you approach planning changes. Because the whole sort of premise about planning is Victorian. It goes right back to the Victorian era, where, you know, I go back to Cadbury. They built Bourneville. They built a whole village so that their workers could be close to where they worked. They didn't have to travel anywhere. And when you think about the way we design our cities, they're still the same. I mean, most cities date back hundreds of years, but they are the same. That mentality and doctrine hasn't really changed. But if you had technology where time and distance is no longer a barrier, would you do it? No. I'm a business. I want to be close to my customer base, and I'm constrained. I don't want to be in that city because my raw materials are 200 kilometers away. I'd rather be close to my raw materials, but at the same time, I don't want to be impeded by not being close to my customer. But if technology like Hyperloop, where we were able to cut down those barriers, I'll give you an example. Our vision for India was all tier 1 cities, all the mega cities in India, connected under 2 hours. Our vision for the GCC was to be able to connect all the key cities here in under 2 hours. Now, if that technology, which is about a decade out from now, when that comes, how are we going to plan for it? How are we going to continue looking at the way we plan our cities, our business zones, districts? Are we going to carry on doing that? Probably not. So the technologies that we are now developing are going to have a radical effect on the way we start looking at the way we plan our cities, our urban environment, and the way we live our lives. And I think that's probably where I think I'm going to stop, otherwise I'll carry on.
So I would like to go a little bit further in that direction and ask you what are the key challenges and opportunities in deploying innovative mobility technologies?
I think the key challenge, and one of the speakers here said earlier, you know, the biggest barrier to what we're now doing is adoption. It's us. Every time something new comes out, the first thing is, and by the way, I've been right at the front edge of this, you know, Hyperloop technology will never happen. Well, we did. We put people in 2020. It's here. Technology is here. It's going to happen. Let's start looking at how we can benefit, embrace it, and use it rather than continuously looking at options or the impediments to it. Legislation, regulation is not keeping pace. One of the biggest areas of risk was regulation. But I'll say one other thing, which is sort of philosophical in a way. True innovation is the ability to be able to understand risk. No innovation comes without risk. And as soon as you understand that there is a risk to it, you will actually make progress. When we were working out of Silicon Valley, risk, if you fail, it didn't matter. Everybody expected you to fail. So I think this human behavior, this mentality, need to address that innovation comes with risk, but so what? Because every failure is actually a stepping stone to success.
Okay, nice. Yes. So I think also failure is something that we can accept for private bodies, but for public bodies, it's always more difficult to accept. So I would like to finish this session with the same question for all the panelists. So what are the key collaboration and innovation do you believe are essential for building truly future-ready cities? So future-ready cities are the ones that combine resilience, sustainability, and smart mobility. So let's start with you, Engineer Aisha.
In my view, building future-ready cities requires three key elements. The first one, strong collaboration between governments, public sectors, and academia to create solutions in mobility, sustainability, and infrastructure. The second one is the data-driven and adaptive urban planning that allows cities to respond to all time to climate and mobility challenges. The third one is designing cities around people with sustainable transport options, green spaces, and inclusive infrastructure. These elements together create cities that are not only smart, but also human-centered and future-proof.
Thank you. So, Craig?
I'll do 4 brief points, and I'll look at infrastructure resilience. I think the first thing is to have a resilient plan. Your planning has got to be in place to be innovative. You've got to know where you're going. Secondly is design. Yes, we've got Euro codes, British codes and stuff, but we've got to make sure that we design top quality that actually prevents loss of life and also enhances our environment. The third one is also having emergency planning. We saw that now with the 2 events that we had last year. We had the first event, we were completely unprepared, but the second event we were tracking and everybody was told to stay home and so forth. So again, there is that emergency. But I think the very important one also is governments. It's really interesting we're here today. In 3 days' time, Article number 11 of 2024 federal decree comes into place. It impacts everybody in this room that all of us have to actually do carbon accounting, what our current carbon uses is in our buildings, what our future strategy is to mitigate that, and what our future is. And if you don't do that, you're going to get a fine between 50,000 to 2 million AED. Very soon, everybody's going to be running all over this. And the other one is also a cabinet decree which looked at carbon trading and carbon credits. So there is now legislation on that. But I think also governments will be very much driving that agenda going forward.
Thank you. And Harj?
I think from my side, I think I've said a bit about what I wanted to say in terms of what needs to be done. But the key thing here is the ability for governments, for technology providers, for developers, owners, to be able to work together in terms of understanding the process and the evolution of technology, to be able to understand the ultimate vision, but also the intermediate benefits that can actually accrue from it. So I think that's fundamental. I also want to say opportunity. I think there's a key opportunity here, and I'll give you another sort of bit of anecdotal sort of thought. India leapfrogged landline technology for communication, went straight to 3G, 4G, and 5G comms. Transport, I look at transport similarly in a way when you consider that it is communication, okay? And with the advent of eVTOLs, drones, there is an ability to be able to leapfrog hard infrastructure, certainly in areas that don't have it. Africa You know, you've got mobile communications, you've got digital banking. E-commerce is not there to the same extent that we have it, the way we actually expect it. But with the technologies I've just mentioned, you could leapfrog and you could actually provide that. So I think there's opportunities with the technology as it adopts, as regulators actually take more control and help develop the regulations, and governments allow it for it to be adopted in a structured, stepping stone way. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you to our three esteemed panelists. And I think we are at the end of this session.
Thank you very much.